Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Cowboys urged to cut ties with $57.5 million, poor investment. It is expected that things will get ugly for the Dallas Cowboys as their offseason settles in. Another 12-5 record and yet another shocking playoff flop will do that to a team. Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff should be in for a rough few weeks. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones and the front office should be in for a rough few weeks. And the team's accountants should be in for a rough few months, meaning that some of the team's higher ticket players on the Cowboys roster, namely wide receiver Michael Gallup, will be in for a rough time, too. Gallup was emblematic of all that went wrong for the Cowboys this season. He was a major disappointment during the season, with 34 catches and just 418 yards, the fewest of his career. He posted shiny numbers in the Cowboys' wild-card loss to the Packers, 6 catches and 103 yards, but did not make a catch until the Packers were down 20-0, and he had only 2 first-half catches for 25 yards. Now, with the Cowboys facing a massive payroll crunch, Gallup could be on the firing line. That's the sentiment from Bleacher Report this week, which tabbed the Cowboys players most likely to be cap casualties and put Gallup at the top of the list. Michael Gallup has not lived up to paycheck. Here's how Chris Knox of BR sees the situation for the Cowboys, who are already $16 million over the salary cap, per overthecap.com, heading into the offseason and will need to be conscious of every dollar. Wide receiver Michael Gallup has struggled to meet expectations since the Dallas Cowboys signed him to a 5-year, $57.5 million extension in 2022. While he's still capable of making the occasional big play, Gallup clearly ceded the number 2 receiver role to Brandon Cooks this season. Jerry Jones rarely admits to poor investments, but it's time to either restructure Gallup's deal or pull the plug entirely. Releasing him with a post-June 1st designation would save $9.5 million in cap space while triggering a dead cap hit of only $4.4 million, Knox wrote in the January 16 story. While the Cowboys have one of the top wideouts in the league in star CeeDee Lamb, they've struggled to find a player who fits the bill as a second option. Cooks is solid, but he is 30 years old and better suited to occupy a number 3 role. Gallup has the speed and downfield ability to be a number 2, which is why they got rid of Amari Cooper, who topped 1,100 yards each of the past 2 seasons. But Gallup has yet to translate his ability into production. Cowboys have expensive decisions ahead. The Cowboys do not have the luxury of letting Gallup get away with underachieving anymore. They can't afford mistakes like letting Cooper walk, nor can they wait on draft picks such as 2022 third-rounder Jalen Tolbert. That's because for the Cowboys, a lot of the free lunches they've had in the last couple of years are not going to be free anymore. Dallas needs to pay Dak Prescott, who, despite leading the playoff disaster we just saw, could still get the richest contract in NFL history this offseason. His backloaded contract hits $59.5 million next season, and that needs to be reworked into a long-term deal. The Cowboys also need to make Micah Parsons and Lamb among the highest-paid players at their positions. Because they're on their rookie deals, Parsons and Lamb were on the roster for a combined $9 million last year. That will change now that the Cowboys have to dole out extensions. Dallas will need to tighten its belt elsewhere. And Gallup is the top candidate. Cowboys' likely decision on Mike McCarthy's future revealed by Insider. Fans should expect Mike McCarthy to return as the Dallas Cowboys head coach in 2024, at least according to multiple insiders. Citing past track records of decision-making, The Athletic's John Makota believes McCarthy returning next season as the team's coach is the most likely outcome. Should a different result be expected in next season's playoffs? There's been no reason to think so over the last 3 years or over the last 28, Makota wrote in a January 17, 2024 article titled, Why You Shouldn't Be Surprised If Jerry Jones Sticks with Mike McCarthy for Another Season. But in Jerry's eyes, running it back with McCarthy for the final year of his contract could keep continuity in the building, in the locker room, and on offense. Moving on from McCarthy would probably mean an entirely new coaching staff. And that's something that is probably too risky for Jerry, who turned 81 in October. The Dallas Morning News' David Moore expressed a similar idea on January 16. The early signs point to the Cowboys preparing fans to once again see McCarthy on the sideline next season. Cowboys rumors. Will Jerry Jones pass on landing Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh? The more time that passes without an announcement, it appears less and less likely that the Cowboys will fire McCarthy. If Dallas was going to replace McCarthy, ownership would want to do it sooner rather than later, given other teams are also hiring a new head coach. Given the availability of top coaches like Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh, it is a bit surprising that McCarthy would return in Dallas. McCarthy does have 3 straight seasons with 12 wins, but owns just 1 playoff win during his 4 years in Dallas. It is especially troublesome the way the Cowboys lost 48-32 to the Packers. The Cowboys' past history indicates McCarthy is safe, but ESPN's Ed Werder points out it is not that easy to predict. Regarding Jerry Jones and what might happen once he meets with Mike McCarthy, nobody can accurately predict the decision of the Cowboys owner, who moved on from Jimmy Johnson after back-to-back Super Bowl wins and yet had the patience for nearly a decade of Jason Garrett. Werder detailed in a January 17 message on X Cowboys News. Firing Mike McCarthy likely too big of a risk for Dallas, says insider. Despite Jones' reputation as a risk-taker, the Cowboys have been conservative in recent years during free agency. The team often opts for bargains over going big game hunting. Dallas has also taken a prudent approach to the NFL draft. All this has Makota believing that McCarthy is likely to remain as Cowboys head coach. Playing it safe in the draft and free agency has led to the building of one of the league's best rosters, which includes Martin, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Tyler Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyron Smith, Darren Bland and Trevon Diggs, Makota added. So, it's understandable why they would stick to what's been working in that area. To not only lose, but get completely dominated by the 7th seed, that's the type of result that usually leads to significant actions. It's a tough sell to a fan base that you're going to run it back after that result. But going in another direction? That's probably too big of a risk. The Dallas Cowboys could be implementing significant roster turnover in 2024, especially at the wide receiver position. Save for CeeDee Lamb, there is basically no guarantee that any of the team's receivers will be coming back. Jalen Tolbert has been linked to a trade, while Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks have been labeled cut candidates. What the Cowboys exactly do remains to be seen, but if they are looking to upgrade one of the WRs to complement Lamb, there may not be a better choice than Buffalo Bills WR Gabe Davis. Davis has been a consistent deep threat for Buffalo for the past 4 years, becoming one of the best, number 2, receivers in the NFL. While Lamb certainly provides big play potential, it's more thanks to his ability to earn yards after the catch. Davis, on the other hand, is almost an old-school vertical option. The Cowboys didn't really have that this past year, although Cooks and others tried to assist in that way. Whether the team is going forward with head coach Mike McCarthy or not, getting QB Dak Prescott this kind of weapon just makes sense. Davis's first 4 years with Bills, it did not take Davis long to make his mark with the Bills. Despite not being drafted until the 4th round of the 2020 NFL Draft, Davis earned plenty of opportunities as a rookie that year. Pro Football Reference shows that he caught 35 passes for 599 yards in his first year, averaging 17.1 yards per catch. That would essentially set the standard YPC for his first 4 years, as his career average is 16.7. His best year so far was in 2022, when he caught 48 passes for 836 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. He's been remarkably consistent though, as his weakest 2021 campaign still saw him rack up 549 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. Heading into 2023, his drops had become a concern. After 8 in his first 2 seasons, Davis dropped 9 balls in 2022. However, the former UCF standout has mitigated those problems and has just 3 drops this year. Davis is a perfect example of risk versus reward. He will not help Dallas in terms of the short to medium gains that offenses need, but he will provide a big play threat that stretches the field and sets up other players to pick up those 10 to 20 yard gains.